Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. And welcome to today's webinar, 3D Repo live demos and case studies. I just wanted to go through a bit of housekeeping before I hand over to our first presenter. So we are using GoToWebinar today. So this is the system for viewing the webinar, but also for asking questions and interacting. So there are a number of handouts that you can download from here. So we have the introduction to Digital G and contact information, and we have our recent white paper we've written on digital twins, which you can download for free today. Also, this system is used for questions. So if you click to the questions section, you can ask any questions as we go through here. We will save them to the end where we have a Q&A session with all the speakers taking part, but keep them coming in as we're going. If there is something kind of relevant that we can stop for, we will do. So today's presentation is focusing on 3D Repo and its use cases. I'm Andrew Norrie, I'm the Commercial Director at 3D Repo, and I'll be taking you through part of the 3D Repo presentation. We have got quite an international audience. So from the Digital G and Gammon side, we've got Claire Wong and David John Gibbs, who'll be taking you through an introduction to Digital G and an introduction to how Gammon are utilising 3D Repo. From Atkins in India, we've got Steve Burton, who'll be talking you through one of their projects and how they've utilised 3D Repo for change management. And finally, from Germany, we've got Ben Sochaki from Buro Happold, who will be talking you through how they use 3D Repo for a custom integration with issue tracking. So without further ado, I will hand over to Claire to start us off with our first presentation introducing Digital G.
Hi. So, how everyone? This is Claire. I'm delighted to welcome you to our webinar, 3D Repo live demo and case studies. Let me share a few minutes to introduce myself and my company, Digital G. So this is the slides we got. Let me introduce myself first. I'm currently working in Digital G as sales and business development engineer. Before joining Digital G, I was a project engineer for almost 7 years in the construction industry. I mainly focuses on plumbing and drainage design, as well as BIM modeling and coordination for building projects. So during my time as a BIM engineer, I encountered a lot of issues regarding services coordination and site planning. I was very interested in how technology could help addressing this issue. This is the reason why I joined Digital G in the first place. Digital G helps construction companies implement and realize the values of digital solutions. Our goal is to pioneer change and help organizations realize the importance of innovations and realize construction 2.0. We are based in Hong Kong and Singapore and have worked with many clients, contractors, engineers and subcontractors on buildings, civil engineering and complex projects. So we built a very close relationship with world-leading technology providers to ensure Hong Kong and Singapore can easily access and use their services. We implement technology and offer training to make sure everyone can realize the benefits. All of our products has been trialed in the region and received good feedback. Today, I'm delighted to share you one of my closest partners, 3D Repo, a UK award-winning organization that offers a digital twin platform for BIM data. 3D Repo will provide a short introduction and live demo. It will be followed by case studies from Gammon Construction, Buro Happold, and Atkins on how they have used 3D Repo to enhance their procedures. So time has been reserved at the end for question and answer session. So please kindly type them in the chat. We will respond at the end. It's my pleasure to welcome Andrew and Bogdan from 3D Repo to give us an introduction to the platform. Okay.
Hi everyone, me again. So yeah, I'm going to be taking you through a quick introduction to the 3D Repo platform and what it can do, and then I'll hand over to Bogdan to give a quick presentation of that being used in a live demo situation. So first things first, 3D Repo is a digital platform for managing your BIM data. We allow you to input 3D models into the cloud and carry out a number of tasks in a collaborative environment, which is what we're going to explain today. So why do we do this? The first reason that we developed 3D Repo is that we found that most BIM software on the market is just too complex for the purposes that it's needed for. So where using Revit or Navisworks or ArchiCAD is great for the people that are creating the models, the people that just need to interrogate them and get the data out of them to do their job, that's overkill. And most of the tools that are available are either too expensive or too hard to use. And what we found is that if we don't share this information properly, then BIM actually creates more silos in the project, where you have the people who have access to the data and the people who don't have access to the data. We also note that interoperability is hard, especially on large infrastructure projects where multiple pieces of software are being used, or large building projects where different vendors are getting involved. You might have some parts being done in Revit, some parts being done in MicroStation. You may even have problems between different Autodesk tools. 3D Repo can sit in the middle and offer that kind of common data environment or common viewing platform to pull that information together. We also believe that data should be non-proprietary, so when you are using other model collaboration platforms, you are still locked into their data format, where you're using Revit or MicroStation. 3D Repo opens that up and stores the information as just open data in a database, so that information can be extracted, used in different ways, or moved out to different systems. We don't see 3D Repo as an endpoint, but more as a flow through of information. And finally, we note that every project's different, so 3D Repo is 95% open source and built on a set of open and publicly available APIs that you can use to integrate your the system into your current workflows and systems that you use today. In terms of the platform itself, 3D Repo sits in the cloud and allows you to upload 3D models from major formats and then pull them down into various products that are built on top of our platform. So PlanBase is the first product on the left-hand side, which is a product used for community engagement at the planning stage. So you can pull those models in and give access to the general public for them to be able to ask questions, give feedback. And then we have our flagship product, 3D Repo IO, which is what Bogdan will be demonstrating today. This is our model collaboration platform that allows you to federate together multiple models from different disciplines, view them in a web browser, and also run some really interesting analysis and communication tools such as change detection, clash detection, and more recently 4D analysis of the model. And finally, we have our 3D Send product, which is a free tool that anyone can use at 3dsend.com for sending 3D models to people you're collaborating with, where they can download the model to use in any tool, but also view it directly in a web browser for free. Just a really nice free communication tool. And finally, we also have links out to Unity and Unreal. So anyone creating digital twin applications where you want to be able to have an easy way to live update the model with the latest information, linking it to 3D Repo can be a really nice solution for that as well. And all of this is underpinned by our open API, which, as I was explaining earlier, allows you to connect into any of the other tools that you're using in your current workflow to either push information to 3D Repo, such as 3D models for processing into our web viewer, or pull out information, say door schedule information from the model and pull it down into something like Excel or Google Sheets to be used for another purpose. In terms of how we consume the data into 3D Repo, we do have plugins available on the Autodesk App Store for the major Autodesk tools, Revit, Navisworks, and Civils 3D. But you can just directly upload the file as well. So if you do have a Revit file or a Bentley MicroStation file, you can just send that to 3D Repo via an upload, and it will process it and allow you to view it. But the bit that we're really excited about is linking to your existing common data environment or document management system. What we found is that other model collaboration platforms on the market don't allow this, and therefore takes your model collaboration process outside of ISO 19650, where the auditing and management of that process is held within your common data environment, such as ProjectWise or ASite or Procore. or even the Autodesk Construction Cloud tools, if that's what you're using, can then be connected to 3D Repo to pull the information at a certain stage gate or whenever it's been approved. So this is what 3D Repo looks like when you log in. Really clean, nice, easy to understand user interface. Bogdan will take you through some of this in a bit more detail in 2 minutes. But once you are in there, this also allows you to complete a number of tasks, from issue tracking to risk analysis to data validation. Again, some of which Bogdan will be showing you in his live demo. In terms of security, 3D Repo holds ISO 9001 and 27001 certification, one of the only model collaboration platforms on the market to do so. And we also hold the UK Cyber Essential Certified certification. All of the software is developed in the UK, in London, by our in-house software development team. And all data that you put into 3D Repo is always encrypted, whether that's when it's at rest sitting on our server or when it's in transit via HTTPS or going to you. You can always be clear that it's secure. And in terms of the hosting options, 3D Repo at the moment, the kind of version you can sign up to and just start using is hosted either in London or Montreal as 2 separate versions. Other regions are currently under discussion, Hong Kong being maybe one of them that we'll be looking at next. But in the meantime, if you do have requirements for having data within your own country, wherever that may be, we can host it as a private cloud on any of the major providers, or even do it as an on-premise solution if you have the server infrastructure in-house to do so. In terms of users, tends to be a mix of, as you see today on this webinar, tier 1 contractors and multidisciplinary consultants using 3D Repo to better coordinate their projects, as well as some major clients in the UK anyway, such as Network Rail and HS2, utilising our innovative tools to deliver. So I think from me, that's it. I will hand over now to Bogdan to take you through the live demonstration.
Excellent, thanks, Andrew.
I've just made you presenter now, Bogdan, so you should be able to share.
Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, looking good.
And can you see myself as well? Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Andrew. That was very good. Thanks, Claire, for that presentation as well. So today, guys, I'll show you quickly what 3D Repo is and how it works. I'll try and keep it as comprehensive as I can, but I also will keep it brief as well, so I don't overwhelm you. Essentially, 3D Repo is a cloud-based solution, and the main focus of our product is to make sure that we are that open BIM platform that everybody talks about, right? We are the platform that you can access from anywhere, and most importantly, you can bring any sort of digital information into it as you wish, and most importantly, every project stakeholder during any project delivery stage has ability to access that data. So as you can see in here, I can just open up my web browser, and then from here on, I can take it forward in terms of coordination or collaboration. So at the heart of the actual 3D Repo.io solution is obviously collaboration, right? So for instance, if I look at the demo team space and we have this residential block project, this is a nice one to always show. There's a lot of going on in here. The good thing is that you can create various data entry points, right? These could be discipline or maybe a specific area of the model that you can create containers for, feed information in, and this information could be coming from anywhere. Your common data environment, somebody uploading via plugins, maybe somebody sharing models and things. So when that data comes in, or even before that data comes in, you can start your actual collaboration process, even without 3D model information, right? You can come into our collaborative Kanban board, where you can then, filter all of your issues information, look at things, see what's going on, who's commenting, add comments, have a live collaboration, change priorities and things. But the real benefit is the fact that, everybody spends lots of time developing BIM models and BIM data that is meant to help us with the coordination, but not often everyone gets access to that data. So in this case, I'll show you how, for instance, I can federate multiple disciplines that could be different file formats, and I can bring it under one roof, and then I can access it in the web browser. So this is the level of coordination we're talking about. We are no longer locked into those bi-weekly meetings where everybody is sitting in the same room, you know, pointing finger. Especially in the last 2 years, we haven't had a chance to do that, right? We could either do that through MS Teams or Zoom or whatever, but it's not beneficial. The real benefit is that whilst I'm working on this project, if I'm working remotely from my kitchen or sofa, I can log into this like I would to YouTube or Facebook and then communicate on things when it suits me or when I have time. But the real benefit is that if I'm not tech savvy, I'm not being professional, I can still start chatting to my team and start identifying issues. So for instance, what you'll notice is that, you know, we can bring various disciplines under one roof. For instance, you know, MEP, furniture, facade, structure, and then you can start flying around your model and start identifying issues. This is not just a fancy, you know, kind of game experience where you feel like, you know, you're playing GTA in a web browser or something like that. This is something that can actually benefit your projects, right? So for instance, if I want to see some additional data from the model element, I can do that. You know, I can pull up my BIM card, see what's going on. If I want to, you know, cut across the building as well, you know, let's drop a clip plane and then have a look what's going on in maybe core array of the building. Are they providing the MEP equipment and stuff? It's easy to do, you know, with a click of a button or so. But most importantly, you know, I can fly around the model to maybe specific views and things, right? So when I do that, I go to specific areas that we might be working on, coordinating. If I'm a lead architect, I don't know how to use Revit or Navisworks, I can quickly open this up, go to the view that we last used for our coordination. I can then come into my space and then have a look, you know, where the MEP equipment. So I can run my rule checks to tell me, you know, where the pipes are, where the cable trays are, where the soil waste pipes are. So this is where you suddenly start realizing that actually things don't have to be complicated, right? And to initiate that coordination process, it takes just a few clicks of a button like here. I can easily jump to an area of an interest. I can easily visualize what certain discipline carries, what data it has, and so on and so forth. But most importantly is this is where it becoming is more beneficial in the sense that you can start collaborating. So as you fly around the model, you may notice that, you know, there are some pins floating around. These can be issue or safety-based pins. And when you click on those, it can take you to the actual issue itself. You can jump to the issue and then see the markup, any kind of comments or anything like that. Or you can just simply scroll through the list of issues in here, which is easily to identify, filter based on discipline or anything like that. But most importantly, everything resides in one place, right? So I don't have to be on the same call with the individual. I can easily add a comment, create some sort of markup, tell them what is it that I want, maybe share some information, some PDF plans or anything like that. So here it is. It's all under one roof. If I fall ill, if I leave the company, if somebody joins halfway through the project, they can easily pick this up and crack on with it. There's a full audit trail. It's a BCF schema that you can plug into any other applications or bring information in. So this is issue tracking, kind of like data validation, BIM data visualization in a nutshell. And this is how easy and straightforward it is to use in 3D Repo. And I'll probably conclude it here in terms of issue tracking. And I'll actually show you how safety-based and 4D really falls in nicely, because this is another area. So for instance, if we go to our safety-based area, and I'll jump into this 4D sample model, I'll show you that with an addition of 4D sequence playback in 3D Repo, the feature called Safety Base has really picked up pace, and DJ will show you some more about it. It's very beneficial for the team to finally be able to play back 4D sequence in the web browser. So if you, for instance, don't have, let's say, Synchro license or don't know how to use it, it could take you maybe 2 weeks to pick up pace and knowing how to play the actual sequence, or just sending video isn't enough, right? You may well just send the URL link to a model, and then from here on, you can decide what I want to see, you know, what kind of information I want to display. I then choose myself, and I can see what exactly is going on during that construction sequence. I can fly around. If anything is concerning me, you may see that actually these beacons that are risks start flagging up within the actual 3D model environment. So you can click on that. It will take you to the actual risk itself. You can then see what it is the individual is talking about. But what's most important is that it's actually really easy to identify these risks yourself, right? So you don't have to be in the same room, you don't have to watch the video, but now the power is in your hands, right? So as you fly around, as you look around, you finally have access to the data that you didn't have before. And at any moment in time, you might stop and say, oh, actually, hold on. I'm noticing there is an issue that I can't see in our risk register or no one has ever picked up. So I might want to share it. You know, there is an opening and I want to make sure that there is sufficient safety barriers, right? What you really will enjoy from this is that all of the information you supply is actually PAS 1192 Part 6 compliant, so it's industry standards. And when you define your risk information, let's say I'm going to say it's a very high risk because somebody might fall down, the risk owner is going to be project manager, all the subsequent information can be predefined by you as well. So if you have a team who's joining the project, doesn't know the project standards, don't want to waste too much time thinking about how do they submit this form, you can then go and say, you know, okay, this is fault from edge, associated activity may well be installation, this is the slab scenario, there is actually physical edge that is right here in this scenario, and it's in situ concrete, location, high level near opening. Right, so this is my risk information. I can create a screenshot as well. In here, I can draw anything I like, maybe go and say, you know, provide the safety barriers in here, because otherwise, you know, anybody who is walking around site may well fall down. There's quite a big drop. If I'm interested in knowing more about it, I can then come in and then go and say, okay, let's see how tall it is, right? It's 4 meters high. Yeah, that's definitely a health hazard, right? I'm gonna add a pin to this, and there it is. So I save this risk and it's instantly in our database. I can then use that information however I like, right? Since we're creating this structured data and our latest work with Health and Safety Executive, we can actually go back to the database in 3D Repo and then go and say, if this is the risk scenario we have, let's see if our health and safety team has approved certain ways of resolving it. No, might not be the case. If yes, there is something, you might be able to pick it up. But most importantly, now it's actually tagged to a sequence as well. So if somebody, let's say, comes out of our sequence feature and just sees this actual, health and safety hazard, when they click on it, they actually jump to that sequence, the 4D sequence itself. So it's no longer just them questioning, you know, oh, well, what happens before or what happens after. It's just trying to simply tie in those loose ends and keeping it as simple as possible, because quite often overcomplicating things leads to delays as well, right? So this is kind of the level of collaboration we're trying to achieve. And the real benefit in 3D Repo, it's not just you, let's say, being able to pick up this information in, let's say, 3D Repo, it's you being able to have access to that information elsewhere, right? So for instance, if I'm, let's say, working in my Autodesk Revit environment, if I want to see those issues, I can then use 3D Repo APIs and in fact use one of our plugins to then look for that information, right? So I'm looking for open issues in progress. Here I can scroll through the information, see there is an issue that is particularly important to me. I can click on it, it will take me to that area of the model as well. I can then open it up to see further comments, you know, see the original markup or whatever it may be. So this is the level of collaboration we're trying to achieve. And it doesn't stop there as well, right? So one of the things that I want to reiterate is that 3D Repo is an open platform in the sense that it's not open because it's in a web browser and anyone can access. It's open in the sense that we have an extensive list of APIs. So if you have certain workflows that you want to utilize that we don't offer, or perhaps, you know, we don't have the button to suit your workflow, it doesn't mean it ends there, right? If I, in this particular case, want to say, you know what, I want to publish this model to somebody else, but I want to make sure that all of our safety-based risks are stored in this model as well. So if somebody doesn't have access to 3D Repo, you can pull that information from 3D Repo into your 3D model environment. Actually, I'll show you a quick sample of how you can use simple tools like, let's say, Dynamo, and everyone's getting more comfortable with it. And then in here, I can just specify a few, you know, data entry points, and those could well be, you know, just what my API key, what's my team space, what's my model ID, and that's it. And then from then on, all I do is I click a play button, and all of the information that we have in 3D Repo is now in my actual model. So I can click on that pin, I have all the information about the risk, so when I issue this model to another subcontractor or somebody else, they can actually see this information for the data exchange. So this is an example of how the data that's in 3D Repo is easily accessible in any tool as you wish. So if you want to do, let's say, custom dashboarding or something like that, you can easily come in into an application like Power BI. And then, if PDF handout isn't enough for you, if you want to do custom dashboarding, you can easily do that. Once again, using our API, you get access to the data and you can use it however you like, and you can recycle it however you like. Okay, so I'll probably conclude it here because it's probably quite a lot of information for you guys, and I'm gonna hand it over to Ben, I believe, who's gonna present us with the use case of 3D repo integrations and things.
Thank you for giving us an eye-opening presentation in a short period of time. Please get in touch if you would like to have more detailed demonstration. Now, let's jump into some real-life examples from Gammon Construction, a main contractor in Hong Kong and Singapore, who will show you how they use 3D Repo to boost productivity and improve safety.
Thanks, Claire, and thanks for that, Bogdan. I'm not going to be as brave as you and do a live demonstration, but I have got some videos yeah, some slides to show what we've been doing and really the journey that Gammon Construction's taken. I don't know if sorry guys, I'm just trying to, I'm not sure if I can present my screen at the moment.
Sorry,
Bogdan,
DJ.
I think
2 seconds. It's my fault. I wasn't paying attention, so I need to make Claire the presenter. There you go. Right, you should be right now.
Yeah, got it. I got it. Got it. Oh, let's get rid of my ugly map. And then is this coming through all right for you?
Yep, all good.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll give an example from Gammon of how we've been using, well, really how we started our journey, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're intending to do with and how to use 3D Repo at the moment. But it really began with looking at safety and productivity. And for those that aren't familiar, because I know we've got a bit of an international audience, so Gammon is a main contractor. I'm based in Hong Kong, but we also operate in Singapore and also in other areas of the region. We're around 7,000 people, about 4,000 fully employed, so quite sizable. And we have a split. We have two parents. One is a UK construction contractor, so we still have heavy influence from the UK, and also Jardine Matheson, a conglomerate out in Asia. So we get that wider economic Asia influence from, or insight from Jardines, and that deep technical knowledge and sharing from Gammon, from Balfour Beatty, which is quite fortunate. But we pride ourselves in being the digital contractor of choice, and we're always challenging the way we do things and trying to improve how we build our projects. And I think the image on the right is a good example of the projects we build. I think everything you can see in there is something that we would look to contribute to or did contribute to. So you've got the tough terrain in the background of the mountains and the steep landscape. You've got insanely high buildings out there as well, whether they're residential or commercial. You've got waterways with bridges and docks and quite complex and intertwined highways as well. So it really is, well, a brilliant place to work and a brilliant place to build projects. And these are examples of some of the projects that are, or the major projects we're working on at the moment. I rounded them all up to US dollars. Apologies, the airport signsman is saying around 2 billion US as well, with, well, I guess just a bit of rounding there, but that's our largest to date, our largest solo project. We've got highways, tunnels, manufacturing centres, and it's that manufacturing centre which I'm going to focus on now, which is where we really began our journey with 3D Repo over a year ago. What it is for those from the UK, it's about £500 million. It rounds up to about 700 million US dollars, and it's a large manufacturing centre, and it's, our client is heavily invested in innovation and doing things differently, and we were challenged with that, and we looked at how we could optimise that delivery. And within this construction, it's quite a standard frame, but the internals are very, very complex, particularly with the MEP services. As you can imagine, from a manufacturing centre, there's a ton of MEP in there, and we needed to manage and install that efficiently. Now, the way we looked at doing that, and I'm sure many of you will be familiar, is to look at off-site construction. So particularly designed for manufacture and assembly, but also looking at MIC, so modules that we can just drop in and insert. And on this project, quote me on this, but as from memory, over 2/3 of it was modularized in terms of MEP. So we had lots to consider in terms of logistics, lots to consider in new or different ways of working, and a lot to consider not just in situ construction, but how we're going to assemble. So where we'll store materials, how we're going to get them into location, and then finally how we're going to bolt them together for that built asset. So we saw lots of benefits with that, but we obviously needed to apply digital ways of working to realise them. And this ultimately comes into where 3D Repo and some of the other tools that we used on the project were used. Now, I was quite fortunate. I worked close with the project in the early days to really review safety and offer some training in these digital tools. And we were looking at how we can integrate all of our different data sources and provide value to the wider project team. So in this photo, you can see us in our office, looking or training in that data flow. And the idea wasn't to train everybody up in how to necessarily click buttons in the software, but it was about how the project team could realize value through the digital tools that we were using. So in that photo, you can see in the top left, you've got some of the BIM team. Right in that bottom left, you've got the lead engineer. On the far right, you've got the commercial team. Outside of the shop, but just next to that engineer, we actually had some of our subcontractors in the discussion and some of the other engineering team as well. So this was a team effort on how we could use data to be safer and also be more productive on site. And as you can see, 3D Repo was the end kind of goal for where all that data would sit. And what data I'm talking about? Well, we've got our 3D design data. So everything on the project was modeled in 3D. It was a BIM project. We went a step further and not just modeled the permanent structure, but also the temporary elements. So we had plant equipment. So we've got our elevated platforms, our hoists, and temporary equipment as well, like safety barriers. All of that was modeled in 3D for this project because we wanted to map out safety and do those virtual rehearsals. On the project, we already had to deliver with a P6 schedule, so for time information, and that was our Gantt chart. And then we had our traditional kind of non-construction focused products that are heavily used. So Excel for risk registers, we had PDFs with markups for delivery routes in traditional format, and Word documents to create method statements that were taking really 2D sketches and presenting them. Now, our goal was to, instead of siloing all these different pieces of information that were created by different people and used for different purposes, the idea was to bring it all together in one platform and to review it. So instead of people having to make a mental leap to look at what a temporary situation looks like in the Gantt chart and print out lots of paper and marry it up in their heads, they could go to one environment and understand what that looked like, and have, I guess, a more informed discussion and make decisions a bit faster on the project, or better decisions. So the items we worked with really was bringing in 3D environments from Navisworks. So when we first started looking at 3D Repo, it didn't have that integration with Synchro. And we were modeling temporary states up in Revit, taking them into Navisworks and bringing them right the way through into 3D Repo, which was fine and great. And we built these situations up particularly for high risk or highly repetitive tasks. So here we've got installation of steel. And what we did is we wanted to look at the setup for that steel in a lot of detail. So how many operatives were going to be in the environment, where our safety barriers were going to be positioned to make sure that everybody was safe, what plant and equipment would be in the area, and logistically how that would work. So ultimately, that's what we've got in that larger image. And then on the right-hand side, we got some benefits of looking at different scenarios, looking at changes and revisions. But what this allowed us to do, and as Bogdan showed, is mark up safety risks in 3D Repo. And it really was brilliant. So instead of traditionally taking that Revit model or that Navisworks model and typing that temporary, you know, those changes in a PowerPoint or an Excel probably, we could locate and pinpoint the issues direct into the 3D model. So this information wasn't separated, it wasn't siloed, it's linked to the 3D model, it's linked ultimately back to our Navisworks or our Revit model, and we can understand how to improve that in a temporary state. So then those messages would be assigned responsibilities, people will update, and will upload a new Navisworks model, which was great, and the workflow worked fine. As we developed kind of our understanding of 3D Repo, they released a new feature, which was the integration with Synchro. And what that meant was we could bring in our construction sequence into the 3D Repo environment and pin tags at specific points in time. So previously we had to create a individual Revit scene for that setup and bring it in. Now we could bring our 4D models in. So we were already modeling in Synchro. We could enhance the detail that we had in our Synchro model and then start placing all these different tags so to indicate what temporary setup we want. So as we've got here, as it goes on, we haven't got any barriers in place. So some of these tags you'd click on, you'd be able to see a barrier. And what's brilliant with that is then it takes it automatically to a dashboard. Like I said, we haven't got this sitting in an Excel file that's trying to reference a specific time and a specific location. It's already pinned to that data source. And what we can do then is monitor what's left open, how we're progressing. We can produce charts and graphs to understand how we're closing items out. And we've got a risk register straight away that works from our 3D model. So we're looking at this months and months in advance of construction, and we're talking as a team to identify those issues. And there are different ways that we did that. So as Bogdan said, we could do that online through the platform. So no software is required to be installed. You don't need 4D software. You don't need 3D software, Revit or Navisworks. You can just open it up in your web browser and get full access to it, which is brilliant. It loosens the burden on IT. And then we've got that auto dashboard for assigning responsibilities, or at least typing messages to close it out or pass it on to somebody else for them to action. What we also did is use 3D Repo to help bring our teams closer together in the physical sense when we could actually get together. So this is an example of a workshop from over a year ago where we were discussing the temporary position of steels. So the BIM team took all the 2D sketches that had been produced, they created them in 3D, they then linked it to a timeline, and we brought everybody together to see if that's actually what the environment should look like. In this meeting, you can see the lady at the front is someone from operations. The person asking is an engineer. We had safety managers in there. We've got the BIM team on the left-hand side as well. And as the issues are coming up, I'm tagging them in that meeting. So we're discussing, we're moving around, we're interrogating that data all together. And it really was incredible what got brought up. So in a 1 hour session, we had almost 100 questions were asked. And this involved the placement of equipment, all really depending on the progress of works. So we couldn't install some temporary steel in one location because there was already some MEP that had been installed. So we had to reorganize where that temporary steel was going to be and reorganize where those machines would be. And we appreciate that not everybody gets access to these digital environments, particularly at the workforce level, at the operations level. So, you know, we're not shy. We still print. We use the data that we'd created in the 3D and the 4D environment that we'd consolidated in 3D Repo, and we printed it out, enhanced it with text description, and put it on the walls of our sites to make sure people were following the methods that had been agreed. So this was plastered all over the site. And the next stages we're looking at are the immersion of this. So instead of being constrained to a desk with a screen or a projector, we're actually looking at bringing these environments into smart control rooms, data centers, or even into the BIM cave. So on the far left, we've got Gammon's Immersive Smart Lab, where we've got a floor-to-ceiling curved high BIM cave, and we bring 3D Repo into that. So we can get one-to-one with the model, and we can really understand and start to experience the construction environment way ahead of physical construction. And it is amazing how many new risks that you identify, whether you're in that physical environment at a one-to-one scale. So sorry, I've had to run through. I'm staying around for questions, but I'll finish there, and I'll hand over to Claire, who'll introduce the next speaker.
Okay, thanks, DA. Great to see examples from Hong Kong. I would like to introduce Ben, who will show us how Buro Happold use 3D Repo for issue tracking and API integrations.
Hi everyone, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got screen sharing there. Should be able to see the screen.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so yeah, thanks for those great presentations earlier. I'm Ben Sochaki. By trade, I'm a facade engineer. Buro Happold. I'm also computational design lead for our specialisms disciplines. These are facades, acoustics, security, all of these types of specialist disciplines within Buro Happold. I'll just turn on my camera so you can see me. There we go. And what I am going to show today, get rid of that. Okay, what I'm going to show today is how we've developed some custom API integrations to suit our particular workflows of data in collaboration with 3D Repo. And this is specifically to do with consultant site monitoring, because we're consultants. So how to get this data successfully communicated to contracting teams and clients. Right, so on the right-hand side, what you see is what a typical consultant report in the industry might well look like, or what you might expect to receive as a contractor or a client of a build project. A stack of reports, photographs in a a reasonably unintelligent PDF or printed format, and then as David John described earlier in his presentation, Excel trackers and the like. So there's a bit of a problem with some of this data. It's a little bit, it can be very difficult to extract information or a specific thread of information that you want to talk about at the time. It can be very difficult to get a clear overview of the status of the project and how many issues you've got within a certain works package developing on the project. And for those reasons, it can then also be difficult to basically track the rectification process, leading to disputes and delays and the like. So we basically identified a need for better systems to capture data, to interrogate the data, to visualize and interact with that data. So I'll propose a use case to you that we found suited 95% of our site visits and reporting structure following a site visit. So this was, we wanted to capture issues on site in a reliable and robust and simple to use digital form. So these are, there are numerous softwares out there. We particularly use iAuditor, but there's plenty of snagging style form-based softwares to capture the work offline and capture this data. We then wanted to get back from the site visit, store this data in a structured way that enabled use of that data more intelligently. and facilitate the capture of this full audit trail, which also then plays into golden thread thinking. If you're UK based, you've probably heard that saying over the last couple of years. Once we've got that data structure and database being built up, it's really only as good as how one can view and interact with that data. And that's where 3D Repo has played a really key role in communicating that data in a much more easy to digest and enhanced format versus those 2D trackers I showed you a moment ago. So at the core of this process, when we were digitizing this process and rethinking it, it became clear that we needed a software agnostic data set sitting at the center of everything we do. And that's basically what I'm going to mostly talk about in the next few slides. Once we have that data, that core data set, it opens up all the opportunities to link that data set to all sorts of BIM communication softwares. So what are the components of this API integration that we developed with 3D Repo? Well, the first step was, as I said, to define this software agnostic audit object and issue object. So the audit object is like the report, if you like. Issue objects are the specific site comments or issues that you pick up on site. Definition of the way that data is then structured into the database, and we base this on an event-based process so that data transfer is triggered very automatically and captured along the audit trail. And then the third part is a suite of easy-to-use softwares that manage the flow of this data into the database, out of the database. And this uses the APIs of whichever software we want to plug into. So just quickly to recap the benefits of those three stages. We're on site, we've got reliable and offline input of data, capture of data in form-based apps on an iPad, for example, iPhone. We've got the central core database providing a consistent data structure, software agnostic, and logging that complete audit trail. And then finally, the visualization in 3D Repo, which provides interaction, a very clear project overview. You'll see later in the video, you can immediately understand kind of how many safety issues, high priority issues, or how many low priority issues, that sort of thing, coming up on the project. Yeah, and okay, so you've probably seen this little symbol on the left in a couple of the slides previously. This is the building habitats and objects model. It's a collective of coders and coding based around primarily interoperability between software packages in the AEC industry. So it's something that people in Buro Happold started, but it has become a public open source platform since then, and accessible to anybody that wants to use these tools or contribute to these tools through GitHub. So I'd encourage anyone interested in what you see in the next video to go and check it out. So just a quick video to show what we've done. Beginning of this video, we are looking on the right, 3D Repo, where we've already got our first site visit in 3D Repo. This is with the client, with the contracting team. They can see the photographs, the data points, the issues. And we've just been on site visit 2, we've come back from site visit 2, and we've got our data in this form-based app, iAuditor in this case, which includes all of the site comments, priority status assigned, who's gonna rectify this, and the photographs of the problem, markups of where it is, all of this sort of data. Yeah, and there's 7 of them. So the first step basically is to pull from the API of iAuditor, pull that data into our central database. That's what I've just done now. In the bottom of the screen, we're looking at 3T, which is an interface into that cloud database. So you can see the data points there. Not very useful to people in this format because they're very program based. As you can see, the data is there, but it's not easy to interact with or insert more information into. So the next step is to then pull from our cloud Mongo database and push that to the 3D repo model. And you'll start to see these issues. They take a couple of moments because of the image files, but you'll start to see these issues automatically appear in 3D repo. And this automation is really key to what we wanted to develop here. There's no producing reports because all of this information is here in 3D repo. The final step of the task of creating this issue is to locate where the issue is on site. At the moment, that's manual, but we're working on integrating several new technologies which will let us automate the process even of placing those site visits, site issues. So once it's there, then the project team, anyone invited into that model, can benefit from those issues in all the ways that the previous speakers have really shown very well so far. So this is now a standard part of our scope of work for site visits, and we think it's a massive improvement on those 2D trackers and PDF reports. Before I hand back, I'll just add a little disclaimer that all the information you saw on this site visit here is fictional and not tied to that BIM model that you saw in the video. So yeah, I'm sticking around. Welcome questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you, and with that, I'll hand back.
The presentation was brilliant, Ben. The integration between different solutions are very important. It's great to see how 3D Repo can help. I would now like to introduce Steve, who will show us how Atkins used 3D Repo on a mega project in the UK.
Hi everyone. Hopefully you can see my slides okay.
Yep, slides are up.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. So thanks everyone for the previous case studies and information on 3D Repo. It's been really beneficial to me to see what others are doing in the industry using 3D Repo. And I'm going to talk here today about how Atkins use 3D Repo for change management on Hinkley Point C. So firstly, before I get started, I am Steve Burton. So I am the digital construction lead for Atkins UK business, although I am currently based out in India. Now, what that means is I look after all of the major projects that Atkins are doing to make sure we're being as digital as possible and using the tools and technology to our advantage, with 3D Repo being one of those. And in this small case study today, I would like to talk to you for longer, but you know, I've got a 10-minute slot here. So I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about Hinkley Point C as a project, what Atkins' scope was on that, as well as in talking about how we've used 3D Repo within our model validations, within our change management, and to improve our quality assurance processes. So firstly, Hinkley Point C is a new nuclear power station to be built in the UK. It'll be the first one to be built in 25 years, and it's currently the largest infrastructure project in Europe. At peak, there will be around 6,000 people out on site. COVID, the peak would be happening around now if it wasn't for the COVID slowdown. But the design side of it is really sort of accelerated during that period, and that's where Atkins get involved in. And we're currently involved in probably 60% of the concrete that's on Hinkley Point C, and that includes all the buildings that are highlighted within this image. So these buildings are generally the non-nuclear island buildings. So the nuclear island is where the reactor sits. Atkins are doing the other buildings, which are the power generating and cooling systems. So in these buildings is where the turbine generators, the water cooling plants, as well as any support and backup facilities. Now, to give you a sense of the size and scale, within Atkins scope, there's 33 buildings. The buildings are normally semi-buried structures with about 10 to 15 floors. We've also done 10 kilometers of underground tunnel. And so far to date, we have our concrete has equated to 91,500 tons. And we have produced 25,500 RC drawings with just over 8,000 general arrangement drawings. And Atkins' scope is to do the detailed design. It's to produce the BIM models, and those BIM models also include all of the 3D reinforcement, and we will then declash all of that reinforcement. We will also declash that reinforcement with embedment items to ensure that a fully coordinated design gets delivered to site for the contractor to construct from. And within this, particularly our focus on the BIM workflow of this and where 3D Repo comes in. So within this BIM workflow, we split the responsibilities between EDF, who are the client and the responsible designer, and Atkins, who perform the detailed civil works design. So EDF do their reference design in PDMS, which is an Aviva product. After which they will provide us two files. They will provide us a Navisworks file, and they have got an automated tool that will convert that PDMS model into a Tekla file. And we use the Navisworks file to go and transition and to create our Revit model, which is where we contain all of our concrete elements, our general arrangement, our steel work, our embedments. And we use Tekla to develop our reinforcement model. So I can see probably a few people are looking at this workflow thinking it's a bit crazy using all these different softwares, and it's maybe not forming the best BIM methodology. I'm not going to disagree with that. There's a lot of historical reasons why it's been done this way. And you know, these projects were started in about 2012, where BIM and BIM methodology wasn't as mature as it is now. But in doing it in this way, we have created a problem in terms of there is now 3 different models that exist, which is where 3D Repo comes in. So we can use 3D Repo and particularly the 3D diff technology to validate these 3 models. We can take the Navisworks file as an NWD file onto the 3D Repo platform. We can import the Tekla model as an IFC and the Revit model either as a IFC or straight from the RVT file into 3D Repo. And it's within 3D Repo that we use this 3D diff technology to basically do that 3-way validation to make sure that firstly the conversion that EDF have done from the PDMS model to Tekla to make sure that our inputs all align. We then check to make sure our created Revit model, which is actually the file that's going to be used for construction, and that's where the sort of construction level work happens, that again matches these models. So we've got that 3-way validation. I will show I'm going to try and do a small live demo later so you can see how this works, but we can see at the screen on the right that the green highlighted area can indicate that this element is new within the model we're comparing. So very quickly, instead of having to manually go in and measure and check every item, or using comparisons, other comparison tools that are in the market that run off GUID, we can see the difference. And it's very important to note the difference between how 3D Repo does its 3D diff and how other software do their comparisons. So there is a lot of comparison tools, IFC comparison tools out there, but what they do is they use the GUID reference, and they basically compare the GUID and compare the parameters of that GUID to see if that element's similar or not similar. That system falls down because we've got 3 completely different GUID references, which means that these tools will always show up, and they will always show that everything's been deleted and everything's been re-added. 3D Repo doesn't work that way. That works on the bounding geometry so that it can actually compare objects without using the GUID, which means we get a far more accurate result when we're looking to compare the geometry. We also use 3D Repo for change management. So on projects of this size and scale, change is unavoidable. There will be change on projects. And actually what's going to determine the success of the project is how well that change is managed. So what we do is we have taken that change management away from the client and brought it back into sort of Atkins remit, although we're not the ones necessarily making the changes, so that every time that we receive an updated PDMS model, we can run that through 3D Repo and quickly identify all the changes that have happened between the revisions. So sometimes we do get instructions from the client saying we have changed, added 2 openings, and we will run the comparison to find out we've changed 2 openings, but we've also changed a bunch of element thicknesses and element sizes. So we're at that point able to communicate back to our client very, very easily and quickly using the issues tracker to show them what elements have changed, and they can either come back and tell us, yes, that is correct, or no, that's a mistake on our behalf. We didn't mean to change that element thickness, and we can take that all on board. So at that point in time, we know clearly between revisions what is due to be changed. So this means, as I say, we've got the change report that's been agreed by the client. We can then go and make those changes in Revit. We can take that Revit model into Tekla, update the Tekla model and the reinforcement. We can then again just run 3D diff, and we've then validated that that we've got the correct changes and we've made the correct updates in a very, very quick and simple manner. Also using 3D diff, we're able to check the closure of comments. So as you can see, we can clearly see here, we've got some green elements here, new elements that have been added, but within the change report, we've updated that. And this screenshot here is a comparison showing that we've closed out all those elements. The quality assurance is obviously vitally important on a nuclear licensed site. We've got to make sure we have a high quality product delivered to site first time to satisfy a load of license conditions from the regulator in the UK. So what we're able to do is with 3D Repo, we've integrated that into our QA systems. So we can run 2 comparisons against the models. As I sort of alluded to earlier, we've got a couple of million pieces of reinforcement bar, but we're able to make sure that even when we're going through revisions, only what is instructed to change can change. We have had, I'll be honest, we've had issues in the past where users would accidentally move or delete bars. So within that pile of a massive raft foundation, trying to find that those bars have been deleted, it's just not going to happen. But with running 3D diff, we can find down to individual bars if they've been moved or deleted very, very quickly. That's how we use it. So now I'm going to try and give you a live demonstration of this. This is an example that's been worked up for simplicity, although it is part of a segment of one of the structures we are working on. So this would be, if we were running 3D diff, this would be the base model, or the live model, construction model. And on the left-hand side here, we've got this button called compare. So we're clicking on this compare. We can easily select the revision that we want to check against. So I want to check against revision A of the PDMS model in this example. And then I would quickly just hit this comparison button. Then 3D diff does all the hard work for me, and you can clearly see it's managed to identify certain areas that have changed. So I can slide in here between the base model. So I've got the base model and all the way over there, the target model. So I have in this example deliberately created large elements that have been added or deleted. But what we can see is that even though this base slab is one element within the PDMS model, if I go to the compare, it will be able to compare parts of that element against each other. So it's the tool is able to say that this part of the software, this part of the slab matches, but all of this part has been deleted because it's showing that it is red. So it's present in the previous revision, but it's not present in this revision. And the green would signify that it's present in this revision, but not present in the previous revision. So this is an update. And what we can see is it will even be able to pick up if openings have been added within a wall. So within the target model or the original PDMS model, that this isn't present, but in the base model it is. So we're able to easily see that even openings, which are parts of an element, are present. And even when there's tiny little small millimeter changes, such as this, that I've made a little bit bigger, 3D Repo is able to compare and highlight up that this element is ever so slightly larger. So within this, it very clearly shows these examples. Like the other examples, case studies shown previously, we're able to use the issue function to log that issue, track that issue back to the originators, make sure it's updated, and have that complete audit trail that that element is closed. So this means that, again, we've got the full audit trail. We've got a full audit trail that we can communicate and share with our client on a sort of a regular basis, which really helps for us show and demonstrate to the client that we've got robust and robust quality assurance systems. So just to finish, this is a little image of the site, so you can see the size and scale. This is actually only half the site. It's a twin reactor, and this is just one reactor unit. And like everyone else, I will be sticking around to answer any questions you may have about the project, about the software, and about how we've used 3D Repo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, and all the presenters. I would like to open up the remaining time for question and answer. Do you have any questions?
Yes, if anyone has any questions, you can type them directly into the questions section. And Claire, can you see that to pick them up?
Yeah, we've got them.
Yeah, okay.
So the first question is, how is the program data connected and fit into this model?
So I can take that one. In terms of what Bogdan and I believe with the same situation with DJ was showing, those were models that had been exported from Synchro. So Synchro was used to embed do you want to unshare your screen, James? Steve. Yeah, so yeah, that information was taken directly from Synchro into 3D Repo via an export of an SPM file directly into 3D Repo. But if you don't use Synchro, there are other options. So part of that development, 3D Repo has an API for 4D information. So you can feed it the timeline information if you format it in the right way to link the plan information to an element directly and create 4D sequences on the fly there as well.
Yeah, I think, yeah, just to echo that, yeah, we do that. Yeah, just pull it in from 4D in Synchro, then pull it in. The challenge was in the Synchro that we had, you can't pin issues at specific dates in the software. And that's why 3D Repo was brilliant, because how else do you track those issues in a 4D environment?
Okay, the next question is to Steve from Atkins. How did you present your changes to your client with the use of 3D Repo?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. We used the issue tracker. So we would log all of these comments within the issue tracker. We then exported directly from that issue tracker and presented that directly to the client. In our instance, the client did not have access to the model. That was just their reluctance at the start, because they were learning BIM, they were learning how to use this software, and they preferred to have it as a 2D approach. My preference would have been for them to have access to the model so they could see it coming live. But yes, we would basically create a PDF report of those issues directly from directly from 3D Repo and share with our client.
Okay, thank you. The next question will be to Ben from Buro Happold. How did you track issues before 3D Repo, and what challenges does it address?
Oh yeah, thanks for the question. Well, before we were integrating 3D Repo, a long time ago, well, a number of years ago, we were, making hand notes in a pad of paper, coming back to the office and typing up those comments, manually putting photographs into a report, sending that report to our client. There was an interim time where we were using form-based collection methods, iAuditor, and that helped us automate creating that report. Our target is automation here because that frees up our time to actually interrogate the issues that we're looking at, rather than spend time making nice-ish looking reports, but that then sit as a stack of papers. So we used the iAuditor for a while to print, but again, when we were doing that, the data that our client or the contractor received was still this PDF, And when you get to the end of the project and you want to go through a sign-off process, finding those old comments, which could be in a PDF from 2 years ago or more sometimes, and trying to close out that item is a real challenge. And that's why we've created this integration to the 3D model, because I think it's easy. It's harder to lose these issues that we develop in time and old reports, and it's easier to then pick them up, understand the thread of communication that's happened, and close it out when it needs to be closed out. There's a bit about the history of how we developed that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Oh, thank you very much. We know that 3D Repo can improve, can let us have the very detailed record, and it benefits the project. The next question would be, how did you demonstrate to decision makers the value, including time saving efficiencies? I will pass this question to DJ.
Yeah, so the time efficiencies are, I guess, are in two parts. So one is the time saved from the kind of like optimized sequencing of the works, so the 4D integration. It's quite challenging to calculate. I mean, really the biggest benefits on the job was through the DFMA approach and the offsite manufacturing, and that led to considerable benefits, and really 3D Repo just helped assure that we could deliver that on time, but also safely. The other benefits in terms of time savings, just general reporting is just so much easier. So the ability to have a dashboard automated from your the issues that you're marking up in your 3D model is just brilliant. You can see how quick issues are, or how many issues are opened, how quickly they're closed out, what your closeout rate and speed is over time. You can obviously customize these dashboards. You can integrate them with images as well from the 3D models, or even embed the 3D model. So I wouldn't say we've actually quantified that savings, and Andrew, I don't know if your team have got any experience of anyone that has quantified that savings from the you know, the reporting from the issue tracking, but I mean that alone is just an incredible time saver.
Yeah, we have got people doing that at the moment. I think the thing that we're learning about is that every single project is completely different in the way that they would measure that and their outcomes they'd get. I think the thing that I would say about all three of the presentations today, having worked with all three of you on the implementation of it, is that the way that there was no real justification from it at the start, apart from there was a problem, can we solve it? And then I think there was, in all cases, some real support from upper management to just get on with it and try it without having to overthink it. Obviously, there was a lot of planning that went into the implementation, but without trying to overthink before we've done anything, what are the advantages? It's do it and then we'll measure it, sort of thing. I don't know if Steve, you have any thoughts. Obviously, probably the one who's been on this the longest, and probably quite easier to quantify.
Yeah, I think we did write a paper, didn't we? A small white paper that's available on your website that quantified some of the benefits that we had found in terms of number of iterations of the models we had, the number of issues raised, and the sort of the number of times that change would have not been picked up. I can't remember the exact numbers, but we did manage to quantify certain benefits in terms of time and cost against those. And that white paper is available as a case study on the 3D Repo website.
Yeah,
further reading.
Okay, the next question will be answered by DJ. How much time or training did you need to get up and running on?
What do we have? We had 5 organized sessions, 1 hour each with the whole team. Yes, that was over a period of 5 weeks. And then after that, it was a bit more ad hoc, depending on specific use cases. I'd say we just continually train and learn. I know that's not the best answer, but yeah, to kick off, we had 5, and that was enough to get the whole team up and familiar. I don't know how many people we onboarded at first. I think it was like 20 or 30 people with 5 sessions. And actually, those sessions also weren't just 3D Repo. That was about the wider ecosystem. So looking at the workflow with Synchro, as well as, you know, bits of Revit and actually the PDFs, how to use that wider data and make decisions. But yeah, I'd say those 5 hours. It's a great piece of software. It's built for non-BIM people. You know, it's very intuitive, very easy to use as a like a web service. Brilliant.
The next question would be to Andrew. Do we have any options to edit within 3D Repo and send it back to the native model?
No. So it's not an editing tool, it's a viewing and collaboration tool. But what you can do is create a markup of the edit that you want to be made within 3D Repo. And then using the add-on in, say, Revit, you can pick up that markup. It will take you to the exact place in the model. So say you've marked up a door that you want moving. You mark that up in 3D Repo, go to the Revit add-in, click the button. It will take you to the Revit model to that place, and you can make the change and then close that issue out. So there is a feedback loop of information, but you don't. The key is we never want to make changes in 3D Repo, even if we could, because as you've said in your question, it's hard to sync back. So the idea is that we use the issue tracker linked to both to be able to achieve that. And just while I'm here, the Hinkley Point C case study is now available on the handouts thing. Ben's kindly put that up there for us. So if you do want to download it, it's in the handouts on the Go to Webinar control panel. And just on that training piece, just to give my experience from the customers we've onboarded, I think, yeah, the general user can normally get up and running pretty quickly on their own. We generally say a couple of hours with here and there with someone who's administrating the system, doing the uploading and downloading of data, linking it to things. A few hours over the first few weeks can really be helpful to get them up and running properly. But we also have our built-in intercom system as well. So that does two things. One, it gives you direct access to the support team to ask questions while you're using the system, and they can do screen shares and what have you with you. And also it allows us to work with our clients to create custom tutorials directly within the platform. So if you do have a particular workflow that you've developed within 3D Repo that you want to teach to a workforce, you can work with our support team to develop that out within the system so that when they go to a model, it talks them through the steps of how they should be using it for your particular use case. So there are a couple of options there that we can help with as well with onboarding.
Thank you. The next question would be how you manage the user access or permission within 3D Repo. I will pass this question to Ben.
Sorry, Claire, would you mind repeating the question? It broke up.
How you manage the user access or permission within 3D Repo?
With specifically to the workflow that we showed to you, there's a number of different models for user access and permissions that we can take. I think that when you have a particularly large project, especially when the client might want to use that 3D Repo interface for something, for some other tasks other than other than just viewing those site comments that we push to 3D Repo, then they might want to do some more with it. I think it makes sense for basically the builder, the client entity to host that model. And in that scenario, yeah, we manage that, and we manage the users. I think as Bogdan, maybe it wasn't shown actually in this presentation, but there is a very robust way of defining permissions across different projects to different people within your 3D Repo workspace. And so once the administration has been set up, it's just basically an admin task to set up the users to receive the access to the model to the right level. So, read only right through to I want to interact and change, comment, and really input into the system.
Thank you for answering. There are two final questions. One is to DJ, were you using 3D Repo safety base? Another one is to Andrew. What new feature we can look forward to? So maybe DJ begin first.
Yes, yeah, we use safety base. We use the issue tracking functions as well for some of the design issues, but yeah, safety base for particularly when we're bringing the 4D models in to look at you know, like the temporary positions of plant and equipment and where our operatives were standing. So yeah, really good, really great, getting dashboards out of it. Really streamline that process. Yeah, Andrew, on to the final question, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, what am I allowed to say? No, so in terms of new features that we have immediately coming out, which I can tell you about, we're going to be introducing support for DWG, both in 2D and 3D. So you'll be able to upload that into 3D Repo. We've also got 2D information coming from Revit, so you can define 2D Revit views within your export so that you can see 2D line information, details, dimensions, that type of thing directly within your 3D model. And we've also got support for custom shapes within Safety Base and the issue tracker. So at the moment, everything you've seen today was around pins, but in the version that comes out in a few weeks' time, you'll be able to define areas for your risk or areas for your issue just by drawing it, and that'll be saved directly to that risk or issue to make it easier to identify. I think they're the major things we have coming down the pipeline in the next few weeks and months.
Thank you, Andrew. Would you mind sharing my screen? Yes, I have some my final slides here.
Yeah. Okay, you're now the presenter. You should be able to share your screen.
So it is such an eye-opening presentation. We got a lot of insight from different companies, especially in Hong Kong and the UK. It would be it is the end of our webinar, but before that, I would like you to follow our LinkedIn account for more innovation items from Digital G. And here is my contact, especially for our Hong Kong audience. All the inquiries you can ask me through my phone and my email. I've also attached the slides we went through in the handouts. So please feel free to ask me any questions after this webinar. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. I think we will have more and more webinar focuses on the innovation items hosted by Digital G. So stay tuned, and I hope we can meet you guys again soon.
Thanks, Claire.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Claire. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.